to order. Celeste, please call the roll.
Case,
Here.
Jadish, Evans, Kasserag, Leidig,
Here.
Mead,
Here.
Slivka,
Here.
Stevenson, Stocking.
Here.
You have a quorum?
Okay. New item on the agenda, I guess, approval of the agenda, I guess just by voice vote.
Make a,
Are we in
do you have to
agreement?
make a,
Yeah,
make a
motion.
motion, we approve the agenda
Yeah,
as submitted.
as submitted. Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of June 8th, 2017.
Move to approve.
Oh, here they are.
Second. Moved and seconded.
By Case and Slivka? Okay.
We're in the minutes, guys. Do you have any changes, corrections? No. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, public hearing items, zoning text amendments. These are all city-initiated text amendments. We have 6 of them this evening. I'll read each one. We have a Chapter 3, Section 11-3-3, accessory buildings and uses related to setback requirements for attached accessory structures. Item number 2 is Chapter 5, Section 11-5G-2, permitted uses related to correcting an error in the permitted uses of the R5 2 and 3 family residential district. Item number 3 is Chapter 10, landscaping and design related to a general update. Item number 4 is Chapter 10A, tree preservation related to a general update and clarification on when a tree preservation plan is required. Item 5, Chapter 11A, Section 11-11A-3, design and maintenance related to updating lighting and requirements to allow light emitting diodes, LED lights, and the final 6, Chapter 12, Section 11-12-6, regulations by sign type related to the clarification and regarding the size of the address numbers.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
point of order.
Yes.
Since this is a public hearing, does Mr. Evans have to be sworn in?
He does.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Okay, let's see. Oh, do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, Paul, you have to,
I'll also give you the contents of our plan file.
please give us the contents.
We have a zoning ordinance application signed by David DeGroot dated June 16, 2017. We have a memorandum from the Community Development Department to the Plan Commission summarizing this request and providing our analysis. And there's a certificate of publication in the Daily Herald for a legal notice that was published on June 6th for tonight's public hearing.
Very good.
Alrighty. Well, as you can see, Paul Evans, city planner. As you can see, it's a buffet that we're offering tonight of a bunch of different chapters and some cleanup. Generally, as schedule allows, we keep these throughout the year or years and make a list, and then when things are a little slower, we time to catch up, then we bring these forward for possible changes that clean things up when people begin to look at it, and you'll see, as you see from the list tonight, they're housekeeping, but they're correcting outdated information and clarifying a number of these. So jumping right in, the first one that we have is in Chapter 3 is accessory building and uses. In this chapter, we have its accessory building uses are either attached or detached uses. These are things like sheds and air conditioning, windows, etc. And one of the things that we had was patios and decks, and we said it's sort of inequitable that if your patio or deck is attached to your house, it has to meet a 25 to 60 foot rear setback. But if it's just around a pool and detached, it can go as close as 5 feet from the property line, and or side yard line. And so with this, we looked and we just said, there isn't that much difference between this, and we think that having a 5 foot, allowing attached decks and patios to have a 5 yard side and rear setback is equitable, and we think that the lot coverage requirements for that would basically govern this. You know, that you're still going to have lot coverage to keep people from having, you know, I guess trying to deck the whole yard, and we I guess don't think it would be reasonable that they would try to do that, but that's the other thing, that we would count lot coverage with the deck too. So anyway, that is requirement, and we're just saying allow. The change is allowing up to 5 feet from an interior side or rear property line for both decks and patios. So, yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, anybody, as I go through each one of these, if you just want to ask, and we can discuss as we go.
So the two changes relate to decks and patios. And what you want to allow is 5 feet when they're detached, right? It doesn't say
When they're attached. It's the staff believes the 5 foot from the property line standard for detached decks is a good standard for attached decks and patios.
Okay.
Attached deck has the same requirement as a building would be, and so we're trying to say, let's treat them more as detached, and so we would add this amendment to attached decks.
I
and
misread
patios.
that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's detached.
What's that?
You're saying detached.
Detached decks and patios are required to have. I don't know. I haven't seen too many detached decks unless in the middle of a yard, but they're only 5 feet. They're allowed up to 5 feet from a side or rear property line.
Okay, gotcha.
If you attach it, now it's 25, it's 15 and 12, so you get a little more leeway.
Gotcha.
So anyway, that's,
And your theory is that the lot coverage restrictions would prevent somebody from doing an attached deck all the way out to
Correct.
5 feet from the back rear lot.
correct, because it's usually 35, 40%, you know, and
Right.
and I was going to say cost, but sometimes that's not as much of a deterrent, but just the look too, in general, but the main thing we have is lot coverage. And if it came back and somebody somehow, you know, if this was being abused, we would come back and say, okay, I guess this is a reason that we'd have to have it. But right now, we don't see that as a problem.
Okay.
Paul,
Sure.
does any of this come into effect when it's a temporary structure?
A temporary, well, I'm trying to think for a temporary structure.
Well, you
Some of
remember
those are
we had
5, but it's
yeah, we had the meeting about the ice rinks.
okay.
Yeah, but that's a wintertime temporary structure.
Right.
It melts.
And I think those are generally 5 feet, but it's temporary in nature. So I mean, some of them are case by case.
Right.
But
Because the ice rinks are not governed by the lot coverage,
but they have their own regulations.
but they have their own regulations. Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they melt.
Okay.
And it's temporary in nature, so most of the time, you know, if that gets to be a problem, then we'll again tune that part in. So, so if that's okay, just ask as we go. Go ahead. Oops.
Was this a mistake?
Sorry.
No. I mean, it's fine. Just go ahead.
Was this a mistake, or from staff's point of view, or just something that needed to be updated?
I don't know. Is generally building department is handling this for permits and I don't know why it was written like that. Trying to, you know, because when we're thinking about it, like, okay, yeah, it's attached, but if you know, the metrics of how far is detached. So now you leave a gap between the house of 4 inches. Is that detached now? And now they can have it, you know, or, you know, most of the time attached. So what is that? It's so close that in the naked eye, would you say, is that attached or detached? So anyway, so we just think that.
But it's just consistent now.
But it's not, to my knowledge, that's not error. There are others in here that are errors,
Well, that's
but
what
not that
kind
one.
of
Yeah.
I was wondering about.
All right.
Okay.
The next one, speaking of errors, the next one we have is the R5 change, where where 2-family dwellings are not listed as a permitted use in the 2 and 3 family residential district. This kind of came up in the Geneva Meadows one because they were looking at R5 and R6. And we said, R5, great, 2 and 3, you know, and then we we find out, well, wait a minute.
Yeah. The stated
2-family is
the
not a
stated
permitted
purpose
use.
of
We
the
have to go for.
district does not allow 2-family.
So anyway, that was on our list, to
Yep.
clean up. So
That's a good
we
one.
think it makes sense that when the intent of the 2 and 3 family district is to have 2 and 3 family dwellings, that we should probably make a permitted use for 2-family dwellings. So that's And that, I believe, was a mistake. An oversight or omission, one of the two. So,
Mistake, yep.
It was an oversight.
yeah. Okay, our next one is landscaping and design. And the first part that we're dealing with here is the changes in submission requirements. And you'll see later in the tree preservation too, that, you know,
Yeah.
number of copies, the number of things. These are things that we have in the application packet of stuff, and we don't believe that it's needed to be in the ordinance itself. So, you know, I think some of those are outdated. It's 40 copies, and I think we require 10 now. And sometimes the sizes, you know, what we think is a technicality. Oh, you didn't get you got 11 by 17 instead of a full-size copy or something, you know, or I want. So we didn't want that technicality, and it just didn't make any sense. It's an administrative thing, not really so much of a legislative part. So anyway, so that's that requirement. And then the next one is the minimum area for a landscape island. And this is just something in reviewing as we're going through the chapter of it, is saying, okay, now let's think through some of these. And in looking at this, I couldn't figure out why they had 180 square feet. You know, it's always, they try to say 8 feet from back of curb to back of curb because that's a big enough area to like plant a tree and things like that, and generally. And so in looking at this, if you were to meet that standard, it would need to be larger than what generally our parking aisles, our parking spaces, which are 18.5 by 9 feet, and which comes out to 148 square feet. So the thought is, if we're reviewing and they said, oh, let's add an island in here, they need some more landscaping or need something to determine the end of the aisles and things like that, that if we did that on some plans, it would push then all of a sudden the drive aisle would be less than 24 feet wide. Or if it's longer than the parking space itself, you know, the island, it would maybe take up more than one parking space too. So we just kind of wanted it to fit in that generally. It doesn't mean they're all going to fit like that, and sometimes that's the way it's going to be. But in general, if you take an island in a double row, it's going to be that long. You know, is 18.5 feet by the 8 feet, and that's including 6 inches in each side for the curb.
Right.
So anyway, so that's just something that we thought would just make a little more common sense, having that landscape island requirements. And the thought is not to prohibit that when they did not displace additional parking or a driving aisle when provided, and it gives staff that little more flexibility to try to add some of that in. So anyway, that's the thought on that one. Transition setbacks. This one is one that we thought, in looking at that and reading that, we think the word square needs to be in this language, because it says 1 medium or large tree for each 400, and it really appears as feet, like lineal feet of area. It doesn't make any sense. And so we think adding the word square, so it's for every 400 square feet is what we want to say. 1 medium large should be for every 400 square feet, not lineal feet. So, you know, when you think about it, if you had one tree for every 400 feet, that's not going to do much screening. But if you say for every 400 square feet, that's a much smaller area. And as you know, the transition, the whole thing is to screen those areas around it. So it just didn't make any sense. So we were trying to clarify that would be the correct meaning of that.
And I agree with D.
If what?
I totally agree with D.
D. Okay. Well, that's what we were thinking too. Is ash trees.
Praxis,
You know, if somebody has them, they're sort of on notice right now that they're probably not going to be around long. So we just said, you know, and not that anybody's necessarily saying they want to plant an ash tree, but we just said it makes sense to get rid of ash trees as make them a prohibited plant species. And then,
Paul,
yes.
just back to your 400 square feet, I think just to be technically correct, when you add square, you should take out the The
Yes.
foot sign on 400,
Yes.
just 400, that's it.
In the language-
Or SF.
In the language, I believe I did that, transition.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Proposed.
Yeah, that I took out that little dash, you know.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
He did fix it.
And then, okay, now for tree preservation, again, we're taking, when we looked through the tree preservation, it had a purpose or a intro section there, a preamble, and it talked about the silhouettes of 3 oaks on the entrance sign to Geneva.
Yeah, I had a problem with that.
Okay.
I think we need that.
Well, we don't have that anymore as our symbol. It was
So
it
cute.
well, it was way back, and so nobody really will understand that. And even now, when they begin to see the signs, I don't even know if any of those signs are still existing.
Yeah, they do.
Are they still up? Because we're planning to replace all those signs.
That's expensive.
Well, yes, but they're also getting there's a number of them that are we have to figure out a style, and we have a new style now that we want to try to go with. And
We're not gonna
this
go
is
with
a
an
little
oak
more
tree?
dated. What's that?
I'm not gonna go with the oak tree.
We have the oak tree. We're not going to have the silhouette of 3 oak trees. We would still have this,
The seal.
but there's 3 oak trees that the chamber had used. You'll see, and
Yeah.
that's on some of those. Yes, it won't be the 3 oak trees, but it'll be the oak tree is Geneva's symbol.
Yeah, because the 3 oak trees is like down by where Millrace Inn sort of was.
Okay.
In that area, there's like a bench and everything, and then there's the
There's
sign.
a sign that has that still.
It's a metal sign, and there's like a bench, and
Okay.
it's beautiful 3 oak trees. You're not gonna get rid of that, are you?
I think as in time, I think that would be. I don't know if that's initial, but we have a whole sign plan, and obviously it's only as funds are permitted. You know, we're only going to do a certain amount per year, but that's the thought. And like I said, the silhouette of the 3 oak trees is not really something that people will know or relate to, nor does it necessarily belong in the chapter talking about tree preservation. I mean, we know we like trees, but you know. So anyway, that was the thought on
Three's
that.
better than 1.
Yes, yes, it is.
That means we care.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one to look at. Anyway, that's the thought. And then the second one we have is again recommending that ash trees not be classified as A or B trees for the same reason, susceptibility to ash borer. So we wouldn't put that on one that because they're taking down an ash tree that now they have to pay for it being a.
They're going to take it down anyway.
What's that?
They're going to eventually take it down
Right.
anyway.
Right. That's what. So it's
Or
common
the city
sense.
might have to take it down, depending
Yes.
on where it is.
Right.
Back to page 17 of
17.
33.
Page 17 coming up. Okay.
And under maintenance of landscaping and maintenance bond, in
Okay.
section B, under 1,
1. Okay.
the director of the community development department is empowered to enforce the terms of this chapter. This was never enforced before, and I brought this to the predecessor, the current director,
Okay.
and I was sort of brushed off because I saw lots of trees that weren't doing well, and the trees were not replaced.
Well, I will tell you that there is a
It
program.
wasn't David's fault.
Right. And to David or the community development
Dick.
is credit, and with Nick that we had, Nick did a bunch of we're starting basically on Randall Road, and
Yeah, that's where they were bad.
right, and we've given notice to number. I helped do one for Home Depot, and then we've done one for Randall Square, and I don't know if what other centers, but I think it's like 4 or 5 centers along Randall Road that we've done a inventory and sent them a list and said, now you have to comply. Here's your approved landscape list. So we do have a program, and David is beginning to work with that. Like I said, he could update you more how many centers we've done, but I think it's around 5 or 6 that have received letters that say your landscaping is not up to, and some of them made it.
I took a list and I went back and I looked at some of the trees and I'm like, they're not making it.
Right.
And I brought it to the department and nothing was done. maybe they
Before
were
David,
overwhelmed.
you're saying.
Before David, yes.
Well, that may have been the catalyst to have us, it takes a while to get through the system, things going, and,
So I'm just
and-
pointing it out
yes,
that
yes.
that's kind of a problem.
okay, but we do have an inspection program, and yes, we can talk to David on that if you would like. Next,
Well, it wasn't David's problem. I mean,
no, but he's now, he's got a program we're working with, so.
Paul, I had one question on
Sure.
on the square foot or the area that's required. You're only asking for tree preservation plans at lots of 1.5 acres, or do you find that limiting in some way? Have you found that been a problem in any case where you might have wanted one?
Well, it's a standard that's in there. It's currently in there, but it's conflicting because in one place it says, are required, tree preservation plans are required. In another area it says are only if 1.5 acres, so we wanted to, basically we had looked at some of the smaller ones. This wasn't really too much of a problem in the past because we haven't had these small subdivisions. And
Right.
now we have these small subdivisions and all of a sudden
The infill lots.
Stanton, for example, Stanton subdivision,
Right.
and say, oh geez, that's under 1.5 acres, and sometimes they're even close. And because of that, said, we had the conflict. He's in for, well, he wasn't in for a plan unit development, but at least site plan, yeah, I don't think his was a plan unit development
Yeah,
subdivision.
but under the ordinance, he's not required to provide one under this set, right?
Right, and so, but that was because between the two, we said, when we looked at it, we said it is the 1.5 acres is the standard that we think that if it falls less than 1.5 acres, they aren't required to do tree preservation. So that's what's in there now.
So you're making this change so that it's consistent with another reference in another
Correct.
part of the code.
That we have the two sections. We have the section that says under tree removal, this section shall be applicable to all private parcels of land that are more than 1.5 acres in size. And then it says, abiding by what section 1110.4 says. And then 1110.4 says, if you have a site plan approval or a preliminary subdivision plat, which he did, and or a preliminary plan unit development, you need to have a tree preservation plan. So we
Regardless
had,
of its size.
what's that?
Regardless of its
Right,
size.
right. And so that was the conflict because it said, wait a minute, it says right here you need one. No, but it says right here you don't. So, that's where we have to make a call and decision on that, and that's what we said, let's make it consistent so obviously staff knows too. And we say, the intent seems to be here is if it's less than 1.5 acres, they don't have to do a tree preservation plan. So that's what we're recommending, that we can't have two competing texts, to try to decide. And then for the tree preservation chapter, the number of this is again the administrative forms where we're saying the submission requirements should be deleted too. So and we're renumbering the sections from that. And then lastly is in the code you'll see that we have in in 2002. That's right. We had prices and so recently we've had some people pay for their tree replacement, and we've had Public Works do their running 3-year average because they're buying street trees and then they keep a list of what the price is. And so it just was, again, it was dated to say 2002 and what the price was, and we just said, you know what, we'll provide a current estimate of that to the recipients when they need, applicants when they need to purchase, decide to go that way. So anyway, so those are the changes we have there. And then LED lights, practically every developer that comes in now, because LED lights, are they're cheaper, last longer, and result in lower operating costs. They all want to use the LED lights, and and most of them are surprised. Oh, you don't do this yet? And we were kind of waiting on the state. The feds, I think, have already started to use them, and so we did some research actually about a year to a year and a half ago. But we kind of stopped. We said, well, the state's going to come out in January, and I think it was supposed to be January of this year, and they didn't. I said, where's the state? And it's like, well, the state, it's not there yet. So rather than just continue to drag that, doing our research, we think LED lights. The big concern we had with LED lights is the fact that they can be bright, and then compared to the whole reason that we had the high pressure sodium was to have this more amber color, and so it wasn't, more. Some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah.
But it's not as efficient, as this. And so in studying the LED lights, they have a big range that can go from, 7,000, 10,000 down to, 2,000. And when you get on the lower end of the scale, it begins to be closer to the high, high pressure sodium, and it's closer to a whiter light, but a softer light than if they were at the 7,000. So we think that in time, most people will change over to LED lights, but in the interim even, we think that is a decent compromise, is having them 3,000 Kelvin or less. And in that range between 27 and 3, it's close to the range for high pressure sodium. So that's our thinking on that. It's always that we can always drop, and they would like a variation to be able to use LED lights, and that was the problem, and we were concerned about is sort of the jolting. If this one's use it and this one doesn't, and this is real light and then it's down. So now we're saying if you use it and you use a lower temperature one, we think that's more compatible.
It's still going to look amber. Is that the summary of what?
It's not gonna. I think you would know the difference, but it's pretty close. It's closer, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is that the angle we're going for, to try to continue to give it the sodium vapor or the pressurized sodium amber glow?
I think we just mainly don't want to have stark differences.
Okay.
If we just said you could use LED lights, we're afraid people might go in the 7,000, 8,000 range.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is this one so lit up and the next one isn't?
And
then
north of
there's
80, you start
something-
getting purple, like
Yeah.
the guys
like
on
a baseball
Yeah,
stadium.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the bluish purple too.
Yeah. So I think that's the main thing, and the need of people, park districts, public, etc., to save some costs on the operating.
It's more
I got some
efficient,
LED lights and they
energy.
just last forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And this will be important or good to have consistent or in the code when somebody like the Park District came and they, under their PUD, they didn't have the LED and they wanted to incorporate
Right.
that, to have that then be consistent with the balance of our code and
Right.
allowed into the city code. That'll be
Yeah.
good.
Parking lots want a different color
What's-
light? Don't parking lots in like public places where you want security, I guess, don't we want a different color, more of a natural, brighter white light in those cases?
Yeah, some of them there's been, and we asked the police that they didn't seem to care as much about that, but we were concerned that sometimes they say, was that a blue car or was that a gray car, that with some of these amber color, you don't get a true color.
Right.
And they said with the LED, there's a better chance, a lot of times you get the truer color. And so some things it's like, oh, you know how it is with you have different lighting, it can change the look of something. And so I think LED lighting is more of a true lighting.
Okay.
So that.
Yeah,
So
it is a bit more natural.
and then let's
Just
see.
your wrinkles.
And then the last, I think, this last one here is the address. In the building division, they have in what chapter? I think it's chapter 8. The numbers. We say the number shall be a maximum of 5 inches, but the zoning ordinance to match the building public ways they have is a minimum of 5-inch letters. And so we think the intent was to have it as a minimum of 5-inch, not a maximum, because obviously the further you go back, it's great when you're near the road, but as you get further away from the street, maybe there are instances where you would want a little larger letter, so to be used. So whether on the signs, etc. On Randall Road, we have some that are 100 feet back, so
Right.
it's, we would say a minimum of 5 inches, but if somebody wants to make it a little larger to be seen, then that's fine. So
This is applicable to what types of structure? Not single-family residences,
no, this is
just commercial buildings.
freestanding signs. This is that our requirement is if you have freestanding sign, it doesn't count against your square footage, but you got to put the address letters on the bottom of the sign. So and that's it. One of the changes we had, it was like since 2000 and I forget what year, October of 2011, and now we just said any new permits, so that's just updating, getting rid of a past date. So anyway, I think those are all the changes, but as you can see, these are a bunch of housekeeping ones that have been around for the most part, and basically that's the presentation I have. Welcome any other questions, or if you guys can vote on them individually, or you can vote on them as a group, whatever you want to do. So
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, I think that was good discussion on each of these.
Can I make a motion to vote on them as a group?
I do have to close the public hearing first, Drew.
Oh, yeah.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Oh.
Moved and seconded?
I can't spell his name, it's easy.
Neither can I.
What's that?
I said neither can I.
Okay, Case,
Aye.
Geddish,
Aye.
Kasserag,
Aye.
Leidig,
Aye.
Aye.
Slivka,
Aye.
Stocking.
Aye.
Motion carries.
So we're gonna vote on them in one
I
package?
think we could take it all under one, yeah, it's all advertised under one hearing, I think.
Cool.
So,
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we,
Trees.
is that,
Everything with the 3 trees.
you wanna propose an amendment for that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
my thought on the 3 trees is if we're not using them as, they can always use them, they're not gonna take them down unless they decide to, but if we're not using them as a community, it shouldn't be in the ordinance. We're not using them, are we?
Right.
Like, what about the ones that are already there?
But I don't think this deals with taking anything down, this just deals with the use of incorporating them into a standard city sign, right?
My
Or-
understanding.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd
I don't think it hurts the ones that are existing.
Yeah,
It's
they'll
just-
just stay
it's
there.
It's just
until
taking
somebody
reference
acts
to
on
them
it.
out of the.
Oh.
and this I put up and silhouettes of 3 oaks on the entrance signs to Geneva, and they're going to be going away, is what I'm trying to say. So, so we're going to have this text in here, and people are going to say, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, why do you guys got this silhouette? What
City
are you
went down
talking
and
about?
tore it down and violated
Yeah,
their own.
so that's the reason we thought it was outdated. But if you want to keep it,
Well, there could be
That's-
that could be a separate fight. If you're energized about that and others are, they could go to the city outside of this venue and say, hey, those are great signs.
Chamber
Don't take those
Mall,
out and
whatever.
maybe
Yeah.
there'll be a receptive ear. I don't know.
Yeah. But I don't think nothing will happen to the existing signs until the city acts on them, so.
Is the city gonna act?
we hope to have Kathleen Timoshenko is our economic development director, and I can't remember when it's budgeted, whether it's this year but there is a plan in our capital improvement to begin to have new signs to replace some of the old wooden signs we have. They're going to be stone, and they're going to hopefully everybody will like that. We've already presented it to the city council, and it's just a matter
I'm
of
sure that's being vetted
Right.
Yes.
a lot.
Are
Yeah.
they gonna look like that?
I think they're going to have our silhouette of Geneva in there for the oak tree, but there's not going to be any 3 oak trees.
And whether or not the reference is in this code or not is not going to affect how the city acts on the signs. It's just if they do take them out, then this will be inconsistent with whatever anybody sees when they're trying to do a sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, fine.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve zoning ordinance text amendments to number 1, Chapter 3, Section 11-3-3, accessory buildings and uses related to the setback requirements for attached accessory structures as presented. Number 2, Chapter 5, Section 11-5G-2, permitted uses related to the correcting in air for permitted uses in R5, 2, and 3 family residential district as presented. Number 3, Chapter 10, landscaping and design related to a general update to the text to correct outdated text as presented. Number 4, Chapter 10A, tree preservation related to an update of the text and clarification on when a tree preservation plan is required as presented. Number 5, Chapter 11A, section or design and maintenance related to updating our lighting requirements to allow light emitting diodes, LED lights as presented. And Number 6, Chapter 12, Section 11-12-6, regulations by sign type related to a clarification regarding address numbers as presented and as outlined in the staff report and subject to the findings of fact and discussion this evening.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Case, did everyone?
Yep.
All right, Mr. Case.
Aye.
Kaddish.
Aye.
Kasserag.
Aye.
Leidig.
Aye.
Slivka.
Aye.
Stocking.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, very good. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. I actually had an error of when this would go. It's going instead of Monday because it would have had to already gone already. The plan is for it to go on July 10th.
Okay, very good. Do we have any other business discussion items?
I was going to update you a couple things. We received an application for Riverbank Crossing. That is what Riverbank of Geneva before the townhome project off of Batavia. Basically a very similar plan. In fact, we're currently reviewing it to see how different it is, but it's still 40 units, the same number of buildings. There's some slight adjustments to it, and that's what we're trying to look at.
Same developer?
Same builder?
Different developer. They've sold it off to the developer is Taylor Morrison. And so basically they're using a lot of the same plan, but it's not exact. You know, they have to do their own thing. It's not David Weekley Homes. And so they're trying to pretty much live within the same boxes. And so we're looking at it, and at this point in time, we're bringing it as a site plan and saying, you know, does this meet the intent of the PUD that we had? So, and then on Monday, should be Monday, is that we do expect the application for what you reviewed as the concept at 401 North First, the townhomes across from Park Place. That's supposed to be in. And then lastly, we do not have anything noticed, so we do not expect to have a meeting on July 13th. So at this point, I can't think of anything we would put on for July 13th. So no meeting. So
Good.
that's all I had.
All right.
Yeah, just one thing. Before we held the meeting, I was talking to Paul to look into the requirement or prohibit use of those running LED lights inside of windows in businesses. I think we brought it up once before, but he's going to look into it. You know, it may be under the sign ordinance, and that's what you were saying.
But
right?
you were saying, I thought you meant outside. You're saying inside or
No,
both?
the ones inside the windows, the running LED lights go.
Is there an
Okay,
example
I'm sorry.
of
I
one
was
I
thinking.
could look
Okay.
at?
Yeah, sure. The liquor store,
Yeah.
right where Heidi's Bakery is.
Yeah, inside is a
that
tougher
way?
one.
Yeah,
see.
down State Street.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
With
also,
the shell there?
yeah, there was next to the old Wolf camera, which is now the Batteries Plus. There was a salon that had it there too.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought they were both. You're only they're only on the inside.
This is actually inside the window.
It frames the window usually.
It frames the window.
Okay, I'll look. That could be more limiting.
And
you
it
know,
moves?
So
And it moves.
Okay.
It changes color and
Flashing and-
Yeah. It's just,
Okay.
And you want more of them, right?
Yeah, I thought that was,
And they're probably super bright. They're
when I
always
first saw them, I
super
thought there were
bright.
slot machines in there. You know, so.
I didn't know we had video gaming in Geneva.
All right. Okay, well,
Cool.
no, Mim's not here, so
I'll
somebody else can
move
have
to
it.
adjourn.
All right, good.
Off the Swedish days. Who's playing tonight?